Are you running out of options when it comes to this issue?
Look, we're going to keep fighting for our constituents and hardworking middle-class taxpayers across this country. As I have said from the very beginning, the cap on salt was nothing more than a pay-for the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act. And Democrats in New York voted en masse today against the rule. So for all their talk for the last 6 years about the need to lift the cap on salt, this was a real opportunity, the first time that you would have a standalone bill up for a vote on salt, and they voted to kill the rule. They could have put partisan politics aside. They could have put people first, as Hakeem Jeffries often says, and instead they squarely put politics first by voting down a rule that would have allowed an up or down vote on salt. So it's disappointing, but I'm not deterred. We are going to continue to fight to lift the cap on salt and to provide immediate tax relief for hardworking middle-class families across this country.
So, Congressman, what exactly is the next move, and when can you make it if the House is about to recess for several weeks and quickly be faced with a potential shutdown if you don't sort out funding first?
Well, obviously, the appropriations bills need to be dealt with expeditiously. I know there's been conferencing between the various appropriators in both the Senate and the House, but, you know, we're quickly approaching that March 1st deadline, so we need to act. But look, salt expires in 2025, the cap on salt. And I am going to continue to do everything I can between now and then to provide immediate relief, as well as, obviously, when the tax bill comes up in 2025, to lift the cap, much higher than it is. The objective has to be to build consensus. This was a real opportunity for Republicans and Democrats who agree on this issue to advance this bill. And unfortunately, Democrats voted with 18 Republicans to kill the rule. And it's unfortunate, really, that some of my Democratic colleagues from New York who have talked a big game about salt decided to put politics before the people, before their own constituents who need this tax relief. It's disappointing.
Well, I wonder if you see a path in avoiding a shutdown here, Congressman, with what I think is only 5 or 6 legislative days left in the House. Does that require a short-term solution? Will there be another continuing resolution, or does that get your speaker fired?
Look, I'm not concerned about leadership. We have a job to do. We have a job to do when it comes to governing. Americans put Republicans in a House majority to serve as a check and balance on this administration, to rein in spending. The only way we're going to effectively do that is to pass appropriations bills. Otherwise, we're looking at a continuation of the Pelosi, Schumer, Biden spending policies. So we need to act with all due haste and get it done before March 1st and the second deadline of March 8th. And so I will be pushing on our leadership to make sure that we get these bills to the floor for a vote. Speaker Johnson, just like Speaker McCarthy before him, cannot worry about, motions to vacate or other such nonsense. They have to do what is right by the American people, and it means moving forward with these appropriations bills.
Well, Congressman, if we think about the shutdown risk that existed last fall, you were supportive of potentially signing on to a discharge petition with Democrats in order to avoid that happening. It ultimately was not actually necessary in that case. But now there's talk of a discharge petition to make sure the supplemental package passed by the Senate gets a vote in the House if Mike Johnson doesn't put it on the floor. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, first of all, a government shutdown would impact the American people, and that is my first priority, which is why I would use a discharge to avoid a government shutdown if necessary. With respect to the supplemental, I support aid to Israel, I support aid to Ukraine, I support aid to Taiwan. Russia, China, and Iran have engaged in an unholy alliance that seeks to undermine and destabilize the United States. So we do need to get foreign aid. But there needs to be a process here, and we are working through that in the House. The Senate finally passed something. For all the talk about the House, the Senate moves slower than molasses. So they finally passed something, and now the House will, get about the business of working through that. But it's a negotiation. It is not just accept what the Senate sends you. And I think people need to recognize that both in the press and in the White House, that, the American people elected us to serve as a Republican House majority, serve as a check and balance. The administration has still not answered many questions on the war in Ukraine that have been presented by Congress. And so, as we work through this supplemental aid package, my objective is to get something passed, but there needs to be consensus and there needs to be a negotiation.